Awaken your spirit. The shocking power of morning prayer at 3 a.m. that changes everything. The clock struck 3, a witching hour where shadows danced and silence screamed. In a sleepy town that lay tucked under a blanket of stars, something stirred in the stillness, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. It was the kind of hour most folks dread, where every creak of the floorboard felt like a footstep in the dark. But for those brave enough, or maybe foolish enough, to rise at this hour, it promised a secret, a rush of the unknown that could alter everything. A.S. Ralph pushed back the heavy comforter. His heart raced. This was not his first experience with the peculiar phenomena that haunted the dead of night. Legends whispered of a sacred power locked in prayer at this hour, claiming it could awaken something deep within a person's spirit, something hidden and ancient, waiting for the right moment to burst forth like a coiled spring. Those who had dared speak of their midnight supplications claimed to see visions, hear voices, and feel a presence, as if the universe itself folded closer to them in benevolence. In the quiet of his kitchen, Ralph lit a single candle. The flickering flame painted eerie silhouettes on the walls, casting spells of light against the yawning darkness. As he closed his eyes, he gripped the worn wooden table so tightly his knuckles turned white. A chill crept through the window. Was it just the wind, or was something watching him? He remembered the woman in town, Martha, who had claimed to receive divine words at this hour. Some said she had channeled spirits, and others claimed she could see the future. Those whispers sent shivers through the townsfolk. Fear mingled with reverence. The clock ticked louder, each second a drumbeat, each moment stretching into eternity. Just as Ralph felt the pull of darkness envelope him, an unearthly sound pierced the stillness. A faint, melodic humming, almost like a hymn, floated through the air. Confusion mixed with excitement in his chest. What was this strange aura? Why was he hearing this at 3 a.m.? That haunting melody felt both inviting and ominous, and something inside urged him to investigate. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Ralph, heart pounding, pushed the candle closer. The humming grew louder, swirling like a tempest. It echoed in his ears and rattled his bones. Something surged around him. Was it a force, a spirit, or just his imagination? The shadows seemed to jaggedly pulse in rhythm with the sound. He felt the tension in the air thicken, the midnight stillness replaced by an electric charge. Then, as swiftly as it began, the humming stopped, leaving only the silence to sweep over him like a thick fog. Ralph's grip on the table faltered as he opened his eyes. What had just happened? Was he really hearing things, or had he crossed a line he wasn't meant to tread? Fear knotted in his stomach. In the absence of sound, his mind raced, teetering on the edge of reality and the unknown. He had to know, what happened to those who prayed at this hour? What secrets lay in wait, just beyond the boundaries of human understanding? As he shook with uncertainty, he realized this was just the beginning of something far, far greater and infinitely more terrifying. The moment stretched painfully, a taut string holding back an impending calamity. Ralph's heart thudded in his chest, each beat crashing like a wave against the shore. The air felt heavy, almost alive, pushing in on him from all directions. Was this what divinity felt like? Or was it a trap, waiting to ensnare the unprepared? Shaking himself from that paralyzing thought, Ralph dared to move, pushing away from the table. He took cautious steps toward the window, where the veil of night lifted ever so slightly to reveal the world outside. The streetlights glimmered like hesitant stars, illuminating an empty street that felt eerily otherworldly. That humming was gone, Yet he felt an echo of it resounding deep within him, a rhythm that matched the rising panic in his gut. Ralph flicked off the candle and opened the window, hoping the unwanted warmth of fear would escape with the stale air. Instead, a new chill swept through, carrying with it a scent that was both sweet and rotten, a paradox that twisted his stomach. Then he saw its shadows swirling beneath the streetlight. They whipped and churned as if alive, moving with a purpose that sent his heart racing. In the stillness, the hairs on the back of his neck stood erect. Ralph squinted, his eyes straining to catch a clear glimpse. Darkness was giving shape to something that felt human, yet undeniably other. Suddenly, a laugh cascaded through the night, a high, eerie sound that slipped into his bones and jagged through his thoughts. Was someone else awake? Or was this just another echo of his imagination? He leaned out further, straining to hear the whispers that sometimes filled this hour. What were they saying? Were they warning him, calling him, or something worse? Fear surged anew, propelling him back from the window. Ralph stumbled away, heart racing, sensing that something was coming. He swung around only to find himself face to face with a figure standing in the hallway. It was Martha, the woman of legend, her face bathed in shadows, her expression unreadable. "You shouldn't have called, Ralph," she said in a voice that was both honeyed and sharp, a blend that made the hair on his arms prickle. "They don't respond well to curiosity." "What do you mean?" The words stammered out of Ralph's mouth, confusion and dread mingling with each syllable. "What did I do?" "Your prayer. It wasn't just a prayer. You stirred something that wants more than just your supplication." Her eyes glimmered with dark knowledge as she stepped closer, bringing an energy with her that felt pulsing and alive. Ralph felt a tremor in his limbs. "What can I do? I need to stop this." Martha's laugh echoed through the quiet, an unsettling sound that left him frozen in terror. "It's already too late. You've opened a door," she said, her voice now low, almost a whisper. "But the question is, can you handle what comes through?" Just then, a heavy thud reverberated through the house, as if something beyond the veil had made its entrance. Darkness swirled thickly, and Ralph was plunged into shadows deeper than he had ever known. Panic clawed at him, his mind raced as he grasped for some thread of hope. But one thought echoed louder than all others. What was it, really, that he had awakened? Was he ready to confront the answers waiting just beyond the shadow? The stifling silence stretched around him, and for the first time, Ralph considered that some secrets might be better left buried. But it was too late now. The thud sounded again, closer this time. Fear twisted inside Ralph as he swallowed hard, preparing to face whatever nightmare awaited him. What truth lay behind the door of the unknown? And would he be strong enough to face it? The air became electric, tinged with an overwhelming sense of dread as the darkness wrapped around Ralph like a suffocating blanket. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, to hide in the faintest shred of safety, yet fear rooted him to the spot. "Martha, what is it?" His voice cracked, betraying the panic swelling inside. She watched him, her expression shifting from concern to something darker, and it sent a shiver down his spine. Without answering, Martha suddenly turned toward the hallway, her movements fluid yet unnerving. "We don't have much time," she whispered, urgency creeping into her tone. "We need to close the door you've opened before it fully manifests." "What door?" Ralph took a step back, his heart pounding furiously as he struggled to comprehend. "What are you talking about?" Martha pointed toward the darkness coiling in the corners of the room, shadows slithering like serpents. "That is not just a figment of your fear. It's coming for you, Ralph. And it's hungry." Every thud reverberated through the walls, growing louder, closer, like a heartbeat synchronizing with Ralph's own rapid pulse. A surge of adrenaline shot through him. "How do I stop it?" "Focus," she hissed. "You need to confront what you've summoned. It won't go back willingly. Sometimes the only way to fight a monster is to face it head-on." Just as she finished, the shadows seemed to solidify, twisting and melding into an indistinct form at the far end of the hallway. It lurked there, pulsating, a dark mass that flickered with an unsettling light. Ralph swallowed hard, feeling his stomach drop. The monster pulled itself into focus, a silhouette that felt almost familiar, yet twisted by something primordial and dark. "Now," Martha shouted, "remember who you are? Your own strength. Your voice, it can quell the darkness." Taking a shaky breath, Ralph summoned every ounce of courage he could muster. "I didn't mean to summon you," he yelled, his voice quaking yet fierce against the encroaching shadows. "But I want you back down." As if in response, the dark entity surged forward, a wave of chilling cold washing over Ralph. He could feel it pressing against him, seeking to invade his mind, ensnaring his thoughts with tendrils of despair. "Keep going. Don't let it silence you." Martha's voice bolstered him, her presence grounding him as the shadows writhed and twisted, eager to consume him whole. "I demand that you leave," Ralph shouted, feeling a flicker of power igniting within him. The shadows halted, a brief moment of hesitation. "You want tea? Take me." In that second of defiance, something shifted. The entity recoiled, as though struck, the void around Ralph pulsing with light a crack in the darkness, allowing a glimpse of something warm and radiant. But just as he felt the upper hand, the beast roared back, its shriek rattling the very foundations of the house, and the surge of light flickered. "Martha!" Ralph screamed, lost between fear and determination. "What other truths do I need to face?" Her eyes widened as dread seeped into her expression. "There are parts of you that are still locked away. Remember, Ralph, what you fear most, a truth about yourself, a burden you carry there tied to this darkness." A cold sweat broke out across his brow as realization struck him. The beast was not just an external force, it was birthed from the shadows of his own soul. What did it manifest from? The anger he buried? The guilt he refused to confront? "I can't control it," Ralph shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. But within the storm of confusion, hope flickered, the possibility that confronting this darkness might liberate him. "No," Martha urged. "You must embrace it, or it will consume you." The shadows swelled, eager to drag him back into despair. Ralph felt like he was teetering on the edge of a deep abyss, looking down into a chasm that reflected his own worst fears. But just as the edge crumbled, one thought broke through the turmoil. Could he rise above what haunted him? With renewed resolve, Ralph took a step forward, heart pounding, as he prepared to face the shadow within and the raging creature that awaited. Would he uncover the strength he never knew existed? Or would he find himself lost in the darkness forever? In that moment, standing before the swirling darkness, Ralph felt a surge of emotions crashing over him: fear, anger, despair. Yet, at the core, deep down, there was a small flicker of something vital: courage. It was fragile, but it was there. The grotesque figure lurched forward, and Ralph could see its features beginning to sharpen, an echo of faces he wished to forget, ghosts of a past long buried, but never truly gone. Each one bore the weight of his guilt, a reflection of his most haunting memories. Panic seized him as he recognized the twisted visage of his younger self, a boy who had failed, a man who had drifted through life weighed down by insecurities and regrets. "Face it, Ralph. You cannot turn away." Martha's voice cut through the chaos, firm and steady. "You must claim your truth." With her words ringing in his ears, Ralph felt the walls around him begin to close in. The shadows rolled closer, tightening their grip like a vice. The air thickened, heavy with palpable despair. Time itself felt suspended, each second stretching into an eternity as the monster loomed just out of reach, its eye, if it had one, burning with a hunger that gnawed at Ralph's very soul. "Why won't you die?" The darkness seemed to whisper, a voice that sent chills trickling down his spine. "I am you, Ralph. I am your failure, your weakness." "No," Ralph shouted defiantly, the tremor in his voice turning into a roar. "You don't define me." In that heartbeat of confrontation, moments crashed upon him, scenes of laughter turned to silence, faces of loved ones blurred by regrets unspoken. He thought of his mother, the way her eyes had shone with hope for his future, only to be clouded by him running from the reality of his choices. He thought of every opportunity he had let slip through his fingers, his heart racing with the realization that this shadow was not a monster. It was the embodiment of everything he had avoided. The truth must be faced, he cried, his voice strengthening, shaking off the tendrils wrapping around his heart. The creature paused, a flicker of uncertainty passing through its inky form. Seizing the chance, Ralph took a step closer. You consume me. I accept my past. I claim my story. I am not defined by fear. The entity let out a terrible, echoing scream, a primal dance of rage and anguish, as if it were tearing away from its own nature. The shadows rippled violently, and Ralph felt a wave of heat surging within him. This heat was empowerment, but it also felt like fire, burning through his doubts, his shame, those chains of guilt that held him so close to the edge. Things began shifting around him. The dark form faltered as cracks of light shot through the creature's exterior, illuminating Ralph's path. Each crack emanated warmth, revealing fragments of hope and strength within the depths of despair he thought were too deep to reach. Martha stepped forward, her eyes bright with reflection. Embrace it, Ralph. Your acceptance will change everything. Let the light through. Let it guide you. The creature writhed, tendrils of shadow thrashing against the sparks of light. Ralph felt the power surge hotter, pushing back against the dark. You have no hold over me, he bellowed. But as the shadows shrieked and twisted, an unsettling thought wormed its way into Ralph's mind. What if this purging unleashed something far worse? What if the darkness was only a precursor for another, more insidious presence lurking just beyond? Just as the thoughts wrapped around him, threatening to engulf him in doubt, he locked eyes with Martha. Her unwavering strength gave him a sense of purpose. He had to take this leap, but into what unknown abyss? Would he embrace the light, or would the shadows drag him back into their cold, bleak world? The roar of shadows crescendoed as Ralph readied to plunge into the chaos. As Ralph steeled himself, the shadows howled around him, a tempest of anguish and loss. Each heartbeat felt like a drum, echoing against the claustrophobic confines of this darkened realm. The heat inside him flickered like a flame on the verge of being snuffed out. Should he embrace that light, or was he merely setting sail into a hurricane of despair? With a deep breath, he sank his feet into the ground, anchoring himself against the force of the void. I choose to see the truth, he shouted, the words spilling from his lips like a river breaking free of a dam. The air shimmered with his resolve, a shimmering wall rising to meet the darkness. And then, just as he felt the force of the shadows begin to bend, the grotesque figure lunged, an amalgamation of every failure he had ever known. It loomed closer, its whispers growing louder, like a symphony of all the doubts that had ever plagued him. You can't fight what you are. You will always be a failure. No, Ralph roared. The words split the air like thunder. This was a reckoning. The energy surged within him, potent and undeniable. You aren't my truth. With a surge of willpower, Ralph pressed forward, bursting through the wall of shadows. The light began to consume the creature, illuminating its twisted form. An anguished cry erupted from its core, resonating with a sound so raw it threatened to shatter his sanity. But Ralph stood firm, holding his ground as shards of searing light erupted from his heart, scattering darkness like ash in a whirlwind. He felt warmth spread through his veins, igniting every corner of his being. Memories of laughter, of love, of hopes unfulfilled flashed before him like a kaleidoscope of possibilities laid bare. He saw his mother's hopeful smile glowing in the distance, shimmering beyond the shadows. Martha's voice cut through the tumult, calamitous yet piercing. Immerse yourself in the light, Ralph. Let it drown your fears. The darkness faltered, its edges blurring as if unsure which way to turn. Ralph pressed onward. I am not what you say I am. I will not let you consume my spirit. The cacophony reached a boiling point, a whirlwind of sound and light colliding into one. Each ounce of shame, guilt, and regret began to dissolve before his eyes. Tendrils of darkness withdrew, retreating under the intensity of the light he now commanded. But amidst the chaos, a sharp chill lanced through him. A whisper of dread coursed through every fiber of his being. What was lurking just out of sight? Surely, this victory could not come without a price. The stillness felt ominous now, a foreboding that gripped him tight. Then, in an instant, the world around him fractured. Deep, rumbling cracks split the very ground beneath. Ralph stumbled, his footing unsteady as the air thickened with unease. The light flickered, dimming as a new undercurrent of darkness surged and twisted, rising from the depths of his newfound strength. Then Ralph saw it, far behind the retreating shadows, something sinister lurking just out of reach. An entity darker than darkness itself, unfathomable and ancient, emerged from the depths of the void. Its presence radiated an energy that chilled him to the bone, drawing closer, ready to reclaim what it lost. That Ralph's heart raced. "I'm not done," he screamed, but doubt began to creep in like a chilling fog. The battle was far from over, and he knew he was standing on the precipice of something far more dangerous. Was he strong enough to face this new darkness, or would it swallow him whole? With the weight of uncertainty heavy on his shoulders, Ralph prepared for what lay ahead, ready to confront the very essence of his existence, whatever it might cost him. The atmosphere thickened, shadows writhing like serpents as Ralph stood at the edge of chaos. His heart thundered against his ribcage, each beat a countdown to the impending confrontation. The figure before him was no longer a mere twisted reflection of his failures. It had transformed into something more ominous, something that bore centuries of malice in its hollow gaze. It was darkness incarnate, a silhouette crafted from the nightmares that haunted him each night, an entity born of despair and anguish. Ralph could feel the chill radiating from it, freezing the very air around him. He shivered, his resolve threatened by a bone-deep paranoia. What could he possibly do against this? Taking a staggering step back, he felt the ground crack beneath his feet, echoing the turmoil within. "You can't win," he shouted, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. The creature laughed, a sound like breaking glass that sliced through his defiance. "Win? Oh, Ralph, this isn't a game. This is you learning your place." It lunged forward, a wave of shadow cascading like a black tide, ready to engulf him. He held his ground, trying to summon the light again, but the very essence of his being felt drained. The warmth that just moments ago surged through him was dwindling, flickering like a candle fighting against a storm. Who could stand against such a force? "Ralph," Martha's voice echoed, though it felt distant, as if coming from another realm entirely. "Don't you remember? You're more than your fears. You're brave, you're resilient." Taking a deep breath, Ralph fought against the cold fingers of doubt wrapping around his thoughts. He remembered her smile, her laughter, the light she brought into his life. Wasn't he fighting for that? A surge of warmth flickered within, propelling against the chill that threatened to swallow him whole. "I'm not afraid," he bellowed, channeling every ounce of his will into those words. He reached deep within himself, digging for the core of his strength, the truth that had begun to shine even as dark storms raged around him. Suddenly, fiery tendrils of light ignited from the depths of his heart, flaring against the encompassing darkness. Ralph saw the shadows reel back, scalded by the light he wielded. It flared up, powerful and blinding. "You're not my truth. You are not my reality." The creature shrieked, a spine-chilling sound that reverberated in the air, shaking the very fabric of existence. It recoiled, losing its form, yet not entirely defeated. Ralph pressed forward, feeling emboldened, but the ground beneath him began to quake violently, as if the world itself were aware of the fragile equilibrium at stake. "I can end this," he growled, aware that this was now or never. He focused on the light radiating from him, the source of hope that would guide him through the abyss. But the darkness rose once again, a monumental wave crashing over him, enveloping him in its embrace. "You think you can escape?" It whispered, its voice soothing yet venomous. You belong to me. You are nothing without your failures. And just like that, Ralph felt himself being pulled into a void deeper than he had ever known. Tendrils of despair entwined around him, tugging at his spirit, threatening to suffocate the flicker of hope he clung to. In the depths of fear, sometimes you find your truest self. Martha's words lingered in his mind, igniting a spark against the overwhelming darkness. What if the essence of hope was not just a distant glow? What if it existed within the very pulse of his fear? Panic surged as Ralph fought to break free from the shadows, battling against their poisonous whispers. The more he struggled, the more he felt himself submerged in regret. But then something shifted. He felt a faint glimmer, a thread he had nearly overlooked. What if the darkness sought to consume him, but instead it carried the key to his strength? Could he turn this tide? As reality spun around him, Ralph made a choice. To let the darkness in, to embrace it, to understand it. Could acceptance be the path to his ultimate freedom? With that thought, he plunged further into the murky abyss, ready to confront whatever lay within both the fearsome entity and the fears lurking in his own heart. The moment he surrendered to the shadows, Ralph felt a jolt, a powerful current surging through him. It was as if he had stepped off the edge of a cliff, expecting a plummet, but instead finding his feet firmly planted on a landscape he had never known. The darkness engulfed him, wrapping around him like a shroud, but now he could feel its texture, its weight, its essence. The world morphed around him, shifting from desolation to a blurred tapestry of his past failures and hidden fears. He stood amidst a storm of chaotic memories, each swirling around him like a tempest. The faces of those he'd let down flickered in and out of view, the ghostly expressions of disappointment, anger, and loss. Ralph's heart tightened at each familiar vision, but he forced himself to stand tall. These weren't just shadows. They were fragments of himself, pieces he had fought to bury. "Face me," he urged, his voice steady despite the tumult around him. "If you want my fear, you'll have to face the truth too." As if responding to his challenge, the darkness coalesced, morphing into a figure that mirrored Ralph, a distorted reflection of guilt and regret. The hollow eyes burned with a fierce intensity, mocking his bravado. Ralph felt the anger boiling within him, fierce and unyielding. "You think you can accept me?" The entity taunted, its voice equal parts scorn and realization. "You can't change what you are." Ralph clenched his fists, every fiber of his being screaming against that claim. "I can't change my past," he replied with an intensity that sent shockwaves through the weight of despair. "But I can change what it means to me." With each word, the blazing warmth inside him grew tendrils of light branching outward as he poured his defiance into it. The light sparkled like stars cast upon a dark canvas, pushing against the shadows that surrounded him. Ralph was the artist now, wielding the brush of his willpower. The darkness lunged, but he didn't recoil. Instead, he stepped into the surge, allowing it to wash over him, immersing every corner of his being. Pain blazed through him, memories of wrongs done and choices regretted, each one a dagger. But amidst the agony, he found clarity. Accepting the darkness meant owning it and acknowledging where he had faltered. So many had felt their sorrow, why should he be excluded? "You are not my master," he shouted, voice reverberating through the void. "You don't define me. I define myself." The ground shook and the shadows hesitated, momentarily stifled by the vibrancy of his spirit. Ralph felt an electric anticipation pulsating through him. The darkness trembled, unraveling at the seams, and Ralph took his chance. He reached out, fingertips glowing, and crashed the wave of light into the figure before him, tearing apart the darkness with the force of self-acceptance. As the shadows crumbled, he could hear their screams, a cacophony of anguish mixed with a hint of awe. The realization must have gnawed at the entity. Accepting weakness equated to strength. Navigating fear empowered him. But just as the last remnants of the darkness dissipated, the space morphed again, twisting into something altogether different. He was suddenly surrounded by stark silhouettes, phantoms that writhed, eyes filled with an eerie mix of despair and anticipation. "Now you're awake," a voice murmured from the shadows, a chilling whisper that turned his blood cold. But this is only the beginning. Ralph felt a knot twist in his stomach as he realized this battle was far from over. With every ounce of strength, he steeled himself. What awaited him next? Were these phantoms new adversaries or remnants of the past? The unknown loomed, and Ralph could feel it beckoning him once again. Ralph's heart raced, a steady drumbeat against the encroaching darkness. The phantoms moved closer, their gaunt forms flickering like candles in a gale. Each face resembled someone he'd known: friends, family, even strangers whose paths had crossed his in fleeting moments. Their eyes bored into him, holding stories of pain and sorrow. It felt like an electric charge, a reminder of the shared struggles he had once brushed aside. "Why have you come?" Ralph asked, his voice wavering. Was he ready for another confrontation? One of the phantoms stepped forward, a woman with long, flowing hair that seemed to drift like smoke. "You belong to us," she whispered, a chill in her tone. "We are your regrets, your fears, woven into the fabric of who you are." Ralph shook his head, desperation bubbling within him. "But I've faced them. I've fought through the darkness." The shadows advanced, relentless, their whispers intensifying a murmur of doubts, accusations, and harsh truths. "You haven't faced us all," they taunted, their voices intertwining. "There are pieces of you still hidden, still in the shadows." Fear gnawed at him, sharp and unforgiving. The last remnants of the battle with the darkness only fortified the weight of truth those phantoms held. What if they were right? What if he and truly confronted everything buried deep inside? "Do you want to be free, Ralph?" the woman asked, her voice softening, almost sympathetic. "Then you must confront all of us, the memories you've tried to forget, the parts of you that you think are lost forever." He took a step back, his chest tightening. Each step backward felt like retreating to the very emotional battleground he fought against. "What do you want from me?" he demanded. "To see the truth. To understand that only then can you truly be free." With a sweeping gesture, the phantoms stretched their arms wide, revealing a swirling vortex behind them, a kaleidoscope of colors, memories, and deep-seated fears. It pulsated like a heartbeat, calling to him with the promise of revelation, that he felt it pulling him in an enticing safety that whispered of understanding and acceptance. Yet there was something sinister in that allure. "What happens if I go in? Then you will know yourself," they chorused invitingly. "But it will not be easy. Are you ready?" The question hung in the air like a thick fog. Ralph swallowed hard. Could he handle the weight of unfurling all that held him captive? What if it shattered him instead of liberating him? A low rumble echoed, vibrating through the ground, prodding him to make a decision. He took a deep breath, wrestling with the brewing storm within him. Warmth ignited his core, a beating reminder of his defiance earlier. "I want this," he declared, even to himself. "I need to know." Every phantom surged forward, their figures merging into a shimmering force, a collective of his past. Ralph braced himself, heart pounding as he stepped toward the vortex. The swirling colors intensified, crashing like waves on a shoreline, urging him onward. Yet doubt lingered, gnawing at the edges of his soul. Would this journey bring clarity or chaos? He closed his eyes, knowing he had no choice. Whispers enveloped him as he crossed into the abyss, and a delicious thrill coursed through his veins. The thrill was tempered with fear. What will I find? He wondered, uncertainty twisting deep in his gut. But there was no turning back now. He was crossing the threshold into the unknown, driven by a desire to unveil the hidden pieces of his spirit. As he plummeted deeper into the vortex, the shadows fell away, revealing glimpses of his past, each one a flickering memory, vast and chaotic, waiting to be uncovered. And just as he teetered on the brink of the unknown, a piercing scream split the air, echoing through the depths. "Ralph!" The voice was unmistakable. A face he recognized materialized in the chaos. But the expression was wrong, twisting, agonized. What had he just stepped into? His heart raced at the realization that love, longing, and pain converged into one singular truth everything he thought he knew was being rewritten. Ralph couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The vortex enveloped him, a swirling cacophony of dazzling colors and chilling echoes, each fragment a memory clawing its way to the forefront of his consciousness. Ralph felt weightless, suspended in a chaotic embrace as time stretched and distorted around him. Faces flickered, forming and dissolving like sandcastles against the relentless tide. "Ralph!" The voice cried again, now layered with urgency. It was his mother. The warmth of her smile once illuminated his world, but here it twisted into something darker. Her face morphed into a mask of despair, eyes wide with unspoken fears. "Don't do this," she screamed, the sound a sharp blade cutting through the vibrant illusions. "You don't know what's down there." Suddenly, memories crashed upon him like harsh waves. The first time he failed in school, the way his father looked at him after each disappointment, the whispered secrets of his youth that he had buried deep. The phantoms circled, feeding off his turmoil, drawing strength from his growing panic. "Face us," they taunted, their voices an unsettling symphony. "Face the truth, Ralph." His heart thudded painfully in his chest. He struggled against the suffocating weight of their gaze, but the pull of the memories was insatiable. Was this journey about acceptance or punishment? Just as Ralph felt himself slipping into despair, a flurry of light flashed before him, cutting through the haze. It was the memory of laughter, of joy, a smile from his childhood best friend, a moment of pure happiness. "Don't forget that, Ralph." The voice of his friend rang out through the tempest. "You can't let the darkness win." The spectrum of emotions surged inside him, love battling against regret, hope clashing with despair. He clung to that shimmer of light, the ethereal laughter echoing louder, guiding him through the chaos. But the phantoms grew restless, their whispers urging him to abandon that light, demanding he succumb to the darkness they represented. "Remember all the times you've lost," they jeered. "You can't escape who you are." He pressed forward, the light flickering just ahead. Yet the whispers gnawed at him, relentless. With each step taken toward the laughter, more shadows of past failures flooded in. The faces of lost love appeared, those he had pushed away, arguing that they were better off without him. "No," he murmured, the words surprisingly weak against the torrent rising around him. It felt like drowning, like being pulled into the depths of his own despair. The breath hitched in his throat, crushing him under the weight of unrealized dreams and broken promises. Then, as the laughter began to fade, a new sound broke through the crack of a whip like thunder, the somber tolling of a bell resounding in the abyss. Ralph felt his will fracturing, the force of the phantoms threatening to consume him completely. He locked his eyes on the light, heart pounding with conviction. He couldn't let them win. "Enough," he shouted, his voice breaking the oppressive atmosphere. "I refuse to let you define me." At that moment, the vortex trembled in response, hurtling him forward. Memories swirled around, and suddenly he was standing before a mirror, fogged and clouded with doubt. He leaned closer, breathlessly aware of the darkness pressing against him from all sides, whispering threats and insecurities. Taking a deep breath, Ralph reached out and wiped the mirror clean. But who would he see? Fear gripped him as the reflection began to emerge. Would it show the scars of his past, or reveal the strength he never knew he had hidden within? Before he could register the first image forming, the mirror cracked, a fiery light breaking free, and Ralph instinctively recoiled, heart racing. What lay beyond that splintered glass? Would it liberate him, or shatter everything he thought he knew? The air crackled with desperation as he stared into the reflection. Something had shifted, and he could feel that a confrontation loomed on the horizon, shadowy and uncertain. Can truth lead to salvation, or will it leave him in fragments? The reflection in the shattered mirror flickered into view, revealing not a distorted visage or a face twisted by shame, but something far more unexpected. It was Ralph, yes, but he was whole, vibrant, casting an unmistakable glow that pushed the shadows back. A sense of familiarity washed over him, the confidence he had buried deep under layers of doubt and regret. As he stood before the splintered glass, he realized this wasn't just a confrontation with his past. It was an invitation to embrace who he had become. "This is me," he shouted, the declaration filling the space with an energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. The shards of reflection shimmered, refracting light in wild, beautiful arcs, illuminating the darkness around him. Ralph felt a surge of power. "I'm not defined by my failures. I'm stronger than my fears and my disappointments." And with those words, the darkness began to fray at the edges. The very fabric of his doubts disintegrated, the phantoms recoiling as the warm light radiated outward, sparking hope. Martha's voice echoed through the void, a soothing balm amidst chaos. "Remember, Ralph, your acceptance unlocks your strength. Stand firm." His heart thundered in his chest, drumbeats of courage amplifying, pushing him forward. The mirror morphed, and he saw flashes of joy, the research projects he completed, the friendships he had nurtured, the community he had built, each moment imbued with the unyielding truth. He had fought hard and had loved fiercely, even if it felt buried under regret. Suddenly, the mighty entity before him shrieked again, its terrifying roar vibrating through the currents of the abyss. It lunged, but Ralph stood his ground, heart filled with both determination and light. "You don't control me. Your hollow whispers are nothing compared to the truth I embrace." With every ounce of strength within him, he shouted, "I accept my darkness, my struggles, and I will not let it consume me." The light surged brighter, fueled by his newfound resolve, illuminating every shadowy corner. The entity writhed, tentacles of dark swirling frantically as the encompassing brightness threatened to obliterate it. As the shadows recoiled, Ralph stepped towards the vortex, urging the remnants of his fears and regrets into the light. "I will confront you. I will not run any longer." So he lunged, racing toward the darkness that had long shackled him, and plunged into it, ready to obliterate the final vestiges of despair. Time seemed suspended as Ralph felt the energy swell. The darkness whispered, clawing at him, "You'll always be a failure. You can't escape that reality." But Ralph focused on the light, the core of truth pulsing with each word he spoke against it. "No, you are not my truth. You have no power here." In the heart of the void, something shifted, a tremor, not of fear but of awakening. Ralph felt the shadows crumble beneath the weight of his acceptance. They began to dissolve, each mournful manifestation drifting away like mist. With every memory he embraced, the shadows retreated, the weight on his heart lifting, and then, with a cry that resonated throughout the emptiness, Ralph saw it all at once. Fragments of his past merging into something extraordinary. They shimmered like stars colliding, creating a vibrant tapestry of his life. The love, the laughter, the sorrows, and the wisdom all danced before his eyes as memories transformed into strength. With one great burst, Ralph broke free of the darkness, light cascading around him, sparkling like rain. The shadows had lost their grip. He stood tall amidst the brilliant glow that enveloped him, raw and radiant. The faces of the phantoms transformed, each one, now, reflecting a version of hope, acceptance, and wisdom that shone brighter than before. As the shadows began to evaporate completely, Ralph could feel the air around him shift, becoming lighter. Martha appeared beside him, her eyes blazing with pride. "You've done it, Ralph. You found your spirit." Ralph turned and faced the horizon, now devoid of shadows. The winds felt warm, the air rich with potential, a world that beckoned him forward. He named his truth. He was not defined by his past. He was a tapestry of experiences, and each thread woven into his life had led him to this powerful moment. "Goodbye," he murmured softly to the shadows as they dissipated completely. "Thank you for the lessons. I will carry them forward with gratitude. And with that, he took a step toward the light. In the brightness that spread before him, Ralph felt alive, free. This was not merely an end, but the beginning of a new chapter, one where he would walk forward without fear. Now was the moment to inspire others, to share what he had faced, to build a spirit that would embrace the truth. With every breath, there was nothing left to suppress. As he stepped into the dawn of a new day, Ralph looked back at Martha. A knowing smile exchanged between them that it was time for change. For him, for everyone, don't miss this transformation. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss any exclusive stories coming soon. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support for powerful stories like Ralph's. Flood the comments section with your reactions, your insights, your theories about what's next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and awaken their spirits. Your support means everything.